Okay, hello everybody. So this is the fourth session of the crowd mentoring for Pulse, which is a village ambulance in Uganda. And Jared here is the representative of Pulse. We organized three different calls to help solve the challenges of Pulse, and this is the last call that we are having. We are going to discuss what has been done and what has been implemented, and to see the next steps. So Jared, I'm leaving you to talk about what happened in the past month.
Yeah, so over the past month, got a lot of great advice and mentoring from everyone who participated, whether that was online or on the website or through the Google Hangouts. Personally, I think the Google Hangouts were the most effective and probably the most efficient as well. Hear and see the different people and kind of get to know a little bit about their background and who they are, kind of lended a bit more authenticity and kind of put a face to the different ideas and advice that people were giving, which was great. So got a lot of great advice. For Pulse, the three challenges we had were, the first one was sales. Second, distribution, which is very closely tied to the first, and then the third was measuring impact. And each session that we've had up to now covered one of those three challenges. And again, the advice and the ideas from all the mentors were invaluable. Many of them have already been implemented. Many of them we're figuring out how to integrate it into our strategy and into our business.
Let's see, for example, what you have implemented from the ideas and where you are now.
Yeah, so one of the ideas was to expand corporate sponsorship. So not just looking at, having them buy ambulances, but also advertisement. And I think once we talked about buying and advertising, the interest kind of went up. And then also looking at more than just the few that we had interacted with. So since that call, we've met with 4 large corporations, all of whom are very interested in doing corporate sponsorship. Let's see. Another one, it wasn't very prominent, but something that kind of came up was, if we're solely depending on sales of just our ambulance, does that cause any challenges? And I believe part of the sales and the revenue and cash flow challenge was partly because of the fact that we have one product. So since having these calls, we've actually diversified, and right now we have 3 products instead of just one, which has been great.
Which are these 3 products?
Yeah, so we've really been listening to what our current partners want or need, and one of them was an ambulance that was a little bit more durable, but still a motorcycle ambulance. So we researched the local market and found basically a 3-wheeler motorcycle that we could modify into an ambulance, which we've done. And then the other one was, through our interactions with these corporate companies, we came to find out that they have needs for products on wheels, and one of them is a beverage cart or beverage trolley, which is similar to one of the ideas that one of the mentors shared about, I think it was a crowdfunding for a mobile coffee shop. So we were like, wow, well, the corporate companies we're talking to, they sell beverages, they sell soda, they sell beer. Maybe something like that would be interesting to them. And so far we've had a really good response, and we have our first order coming through possibly on Friday for 10 to 30 units, which has been good.
Wow.
So, yeah. I wish I could show you guys a photo. It's pretty great. I'll have to send an email out. And I would think those are the main ones. Microfinance was also mentioned, and so we've engaged with one so far, which is Vision Fund, and we're also looking at a few other local microfinance institutions that would want to offer our product or products to their clients.
Oh, that's fantastic! I didn't know about this beverage trolley that you're going in this direction, and I'm pretty surprised by the new direction. But it's great. What is the statute with the four multinationals that you're talking about? Because there is a difference between having like people in discuss and then really being able to sign a contract. And so what's the status of these four companies that you're talking to?
So because we recently introduced, we don't have any purchase orders. We have for quotations, we have developing relationships, kind of, reaching the 5 to 12 points of interaction before they actually come through with a sale or with an order. So right now, no, we don't have a purchase order, which means it's not a for sure sale, but there is a lot more prospects because of our interactions with these different companies.
Okay, great. And do you feel there are some delicate points in this relationship from getting to a prospect to really having a client that would be interesting to discuss, according to you?
So I've found that working with sales agents or people that I pay commission to who are from here and have friends that work in these different companies, the most effective way to get a sale really anywhere is to know somebody inside. Somebody that can vouch for you, somebody that can kind of, make it a bigger priority. And I've noticed a big, change in the number of companies or organizations that are interested because I have basically sales agents. Which is another thing that I implemented from the advice from the crowd mentoring. I think Giuseppe said, get a couple of people to, focus on these new areas, new ideas, because you can't do it all by yourself. So that's what we did. Hi, Pedro.
You want to intervene?
Sorry, say again?
I thought Giuseppe would like to talk because the camera switched on him, so I didn't know. He has a problem with the audio. Okay. You can write down if you want to say something, and then we can read it. And if anybody else wants to say something, feel free. Okay, that's great news. My next question would be, what are the next steps, the action plan for you in the following period?
Sorry, did you ask about an action points?
Yes. So what's the next steps that you plan to do in the next months? What do you want to focus on? And
Sales.
I think it was, this is just my impression. I didn't participate to the last discussion about the measuring impact.
Yeah.
And my my personal opinion about it, and I see it also with my own project with Babeles. It's very important to think about these aspects. How do you measure your impact? Because otherwise you're not a social enterprise, you're just an
Yeah.
enterprise. But it's also like very important to focus the actions and the directions in which you want to go. From the beginning. As a startup, you have limited resources, and as you were saying, there are so many things and directions that you want to go. So there is always a risk of getting yourself lost in too many directions. So it's good to have brainstorming sessions with crowd mentors. The question is, did it help you to have a clearer strategy and the next steps in the for the next months?
Yeah, it sounded like you're asking specifically about measuring impact. The action points for that are received a few different links to look into, different platforms or other platforms that organizations have used for data collection. I think the text messaging, or rather the SMS messaging platform was shared, which is something that we've been looking into. There's actually a Grameen office in Uganda that has developed something that we're potentially going to use. But right now we're trying to basically figure out logistically how we would be able to implement it. Basically the sample size that we would want to start with, see how effective and how useful it really is, how practical it is. So that's our action point for measuring impact, is figuring out if this platform that we're looking at would work, and then determining the sample size, how many different ambulance drivers would we want to train, their locations, and then kind of measure how effective it is, and then go from there. I'm hearing a lot of silence.
Okay, yeah, that answers the question for the measuring impact. That's great. But my question was also like the next steps for you. What are you going to do in the next months? So I suppose continuing with prospects in sales and the idea of the advertising, that's great.
Yes. Yeah, so I think the next steps are similar to what I shared, what we've already started to implement based on the crowd mentoring, but the number one would be sales, following through with all of the interested parties, organizations, companies. Because we've gotten a lot of interest in our new product, we're putting a lot of energy into having that ready and getting meetings, because corporate companies have a much more flexible budget than NGOs, who are a little bit more sluggish in their ability to budget, and then even their procurement processes are a bit lengthy. So I think that in a nutshell is really what we need to do, because without sales we can't continue to do the work that we're doing. And yeah, that would be the biggest action step for the next month or two.
And I want to ask you something, Jared. So for your 3 products, or perhaps 2, one that is related to health and one that is not related to health, are you using the same sales agents? Are they the same people?
So right now I'm the one that's doing the new product.
Okay.
Because I've already met with these companies about the ambulance, I'm able to show them, well, we also have this. That would be a little bit more maybe there would be more interest in your marketing department or your events department versus your corporate social responsibility department, which is usually doesn't have that much money,
Right.
unfortunately. So yeah, I've been focusing on that while I've got 2 sales agents that are working on following with some of the NGOs that are kind of on the brink, and then government as well. So something I didn't mention is we have my sales agent was able to get us a slot next week to present to Parliament in Uganda.
Wow.
Which I don't know what the equivalent of that would be where you guys are from, but in the U.S. that would be like, the House of Representatives or the Senate. So a really big deal, and I actually had a meeting a couple weeks ago with the First Lady, who's a huge supporter of maternal health and safe motherhood in Uganda, and the ambulance being very well connected to that. She's going to be a great kind of spokesperson, I guess, someone who really likes what we're doing and has already talked to a lot of other politicians that, surprisingly, elections are coming up, and so we might sell a lot of ambulances to people running for office.
That is good news.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how me and the sales agents. I've got 2 in Uganda and 1 that's working on expanding into South Sudan, and I'm working on identifying another 1 or 2 for Kenya to see what it would take for us to get some sales in Kenya as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Pedro has put here a list of interesting grants for NGOs. Do you want to talk about it, Pedro?
It is a result from a small research that I did, and I believe it's the best list that I found. So I put it here.
Great.
I hope you like it.
Yeah. I just clicked on it. I'll have to check it out. Excellent. Thank you for that.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a long list.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it more in depth later. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
There is also like Giuseppe that has written sales is good, but the question is if you have the resources to satisfy your customer, and if you have, especially the finance and the problem
Yeah.
of being able to sell something, you first need to have like the resources to create the ambulances before getting the money from your
Yes.
clients.
So if we actually got purchase orders, people who have put in a PO and have said we want this many ambulances, if it's a guaranteed sale, then one of our partners, who's our largest financer, would be able to finance us to manufacture the ambulances for the clients. Right now we have about over 100 in stock, so we would be able to definitely fulfill orders for the next 2 to 3 months. But if for some reason we got an influx of 500 to 700 orders, we would be able to scale and being able to actually produce them. And then finance-wise, one of our partners would be able to finance the manufacturing of them, the money we would need to build them. So. We also, the other thing we also do is, depending on the quantity, and depending on who's buying it, we can agree on a 50% payment up front on order before we start producing them, which allows us to, buy all of the materials and manufacture them, and then within 30 to 60 days after delivery, they make the other 50% payment, which has worked. Does that answer your question? I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, one of our partners is actually financing our ability to develop new products. So yeah, which has been great. So we haven't been tied down cash flow wise while we've been developing the other two products. We've been able to do it pretty stress free, I guess you could say, financially.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, hypothetically, if we didn't, do you have any advice?
Pre-sales. So sell the village ambulance, and then so the customer gives you the money before even he gets the village ambulance.
Hmm. Yeah, some of the large corporations like Pepsi and Coke, they can kind of, basically they want you to be large enough to be able to finance, providing the product, and they won't. Some of them won't do 50% upfront or any percent upfront. They'll basically say, "We'll buy it. Here's our PO. Once it's delivered, we'll pay you within 60 days." Which, if you're a small, startup or social enterprise, and you get a large order like that, and you don't have, a financer, it can be a huge challenge. So the question would be, what, would it be taking a loan? Would it be, what would be the options you guys would recommend? Or maybe you have experience with that.
Our mentors tonight are really not very talkative.
Oh. It's okay, it's a tough one.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's always complicated when you get a promise of a big contract with some conditions that they will only pay after it's delivered, or even sometimes 60 days, 90. And what I always advise to do is to accept, but accept because it's always great to have new clients, so we can't say no to new clients. But with a condition, and basically have a return on investment like different from money. For example, if you have a new a famous company purchasing those products, you can do a joint press release saying blah blah chooses Pulse to provide this and this product. Or you can do, I don't know, a conference together where basically they talk about why they decided to purchase the product and how great it is. It can be, just for a video for your social media. It can be anything that helps you communicate to other stakeholders that this is actually a client. Okay, they have not yet paid you. You don't need to share that, but at least you start getting results or other outcomes from this contract. Plus, because you're communicating about the fact that you're working together, they will have harder times to not pay if it has to come to that. So it's also good legally to communicate about the contract even before it's paid, so that you have kind of a security also.
Great thoughts. Yeah, excellent.
So if Coca-Cola tells you, well, or if Pepsi tells you, well, you know, we are buying, but we're only paying you in March 2015, you're like, okay, well, at the condition that we communicate together, press release, interview, video, whatever, that we are working together, so that you can then send that to Coca-Cola and hopefully get a second contract right away.
Oh, that's great. Wow, really good. I concur with Giuseppe. Great suggestions. Anybody else? It's a hard one to follow.
But Giuseppe, are you writing? Because we can like almost hear you, so I don't know if the problem. Ah, okay. No, I thought maybe the problem was not with the audio. I had a discussion with Giuseppe before, and one of the things he was suggesting, was to have the impressions of the mentors about at the end of the mentoring program, to see what they think about the social business. So I don't know, Paolo, Pedro, do you want to intervene regarding this aspect?
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, no, I think the connection is very bad, because sometimes I don't hear you either. So I don't know, Pedro, did you hear me? Yeah, and the mic.
Yeah, the mic. It's important. No, I hear you, but I didn't understand the question. It was what was our opinion about this social enterprise, Pulse?
Yes,
Or social...
at the end of the crowd mentoring program, what do you think about Pulse now that you know more about it? And what's your valuation and your final advice?
I believe it will be a success. No, I'm not able to give a very good answer, because I'm not very keen in management issues. So I believe it's not my my contribution. It will not be in this kind of question.
Okay, maybe my question was not very clear, and it seemed too general. So maybe is there anybody that wants to give a final advice to Jared. And Giuseppe is also writing difficult to answer. I think Pulse is really interesting with a big future. The actual problem is the sales. So this is like his opinion. So yes, if you have an opinion and a final advice on your direction. So Len?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna start. Yeah, well, basically, first of all, it was a pleasure to meet with you all every week. And Jared, yeah, my key advice is keep on doing the way you have been doing it, because really every week we could see that you were, I don't know, very committed to the cause. You really believe in Pulse. I think we all do, but really it's great to see an entrepreneur that really believes in its company and working to really make it work, even if it's hard and painful, and sometimes you can lose your motivation, but you always have a smile on your face. And I think that's a great asset when you're doing sales, but also in your everyday life when you're an entrepreneur and you have to wake up in the morning and try again and try harder and try harder again. So yeah, keep on smiling, keep on sharing with others when you have difficulties, and I'm sure it will be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Paola, so I don't know if you heard us because
No,
the
I missed the
connection
best
was
part.
bad. But yes, the idea was what's your final impression about Pulse, and also final advice.
Okay. I really agree on the things that Jared has implemented. I think it was very smart to move on those two things he did, mainly the expanding the corporate sponsorship and then adding the alternative product. I think that was smart, because what he desperately needed was getting to that sales number to be able to sustain himself. And then so I think that was really smart, and I think that that's exactly where it needs to go, like Giuseppe was saying. um, I think that probably the sales agents, as he mentioned, being critical and very helpful in the equation should be probably multiplied, and perhaps they are not exactly sales agents per se. Let's call them sales associate collaborators. I don't know, not necessarily that they have to bear the responsibility of the sales, but they could be conduits towards the sales. So someone who works at a hospital could be like a non-formal sales agent. You know what I mean? Just simply, and now that you have the other product that you're leading, which is the beverage trolley, let's call it, it could be, you know, it could be coffee, it could be beverages, or it could be something else. And then you should do sales agents, let's call them, no? What I mean, not for, and then of adding that extra piece of it's not necessarily medical, but perhaps it's that information through the SMS. I was thinking, of course, because I live here, of an app, and I don't think that's probably useful, because I don't know if people use smartphones, and if an app.
We lost her.
Oh no.
Hi, I'm back. Sorry.
You're welcome.
I'm on a portable. I'm in Uganda here. Okay, get disconnected all the time. So yeah, just whatever helps you just say where we are, or if I'm an ambulance, I'm close to this place, or I could get, like cabs do, that they just share information on a radio. So if that could be an SMS, and if that could help like move transportation around, I think that's a very good bonus to the service, to the product, that service. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So the last two advice from Giuseppe are to pay attention to unpaying customer, and especially NGOs and governments, because yeah, so his advice would be to ask for an advance in order to secure, and also the idea of paying attention in growth. If you sell too much without you must be able to grow without the financial constraints. I think we discussed about this, so it's very important, very important aspect. And yeah, so thank you, Giuseppe, for the transition. Then he was saying always ask help from mentors to Babele. So the last point I wanted to discuss with you is like, what are the next steps after this crowdmentoring program? Because the idea is that you have created a small community of people that really liked your project. I think Pedro and Solen and Paula, if they come, and Giuseppe, if they come every week to see it, because they are really enthusiastic about your project. So the idea is we chose to make this 1 month crowd mentoring program just in 1 month, because we didn't want to get people scared about too much involvement, and we hope that things will happen naturally, because there are like links that will be created between people. But the idea that this is the end of the crowd mentoring program doesn't mean that you cannot continue asking for help or for feedback, or continue having these spontaneously if you need any advice from the part of the mentors or the other members of the community.
Oh, that's great. I've got everybody's email address, so even if you don't respond, you may be hearing from me. No, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, so if nobody wants to add anything else, we can stop here and keep in touch via email, Babel, and other hangouts.
Yeah, I just want to say a final thank you. Like Roxandra said, it may not be the end of our interaction, but obviously the end of the organized Google Hangouts, and following the program of the crowd mentoring. The advice I would give to crowd mentoring, I would actually call it crowd advisory. I feel like everyone is more of an advisory board versus a mentoring team. Personally, when I think of a mentor, I think more of an individual or a couple of individuals that I'm very close to, that I spend a lot of time with, whereas an advisory board is, once a month, once a quarter.
Yeah, actually, that's very interesting. I was thinking about it as well. It might seem like an advisory board meeting every once and then and giving their advice to the company. Now, Jared get completely out of the conversation, so the connection is really not amazing tonight. He got connected again. Can you hear us, Jared? Yeah, here is like the last feedback that Giuseppe wrote, saying that like we the mentors and people are, or the advisors, as Jared was saying, we are with you. So don't hesitate to call and to ask for help.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so yes, thank you for the advice for the crowd advisory to rename it like this. It's interesting, and I also thought about it.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
been,
Makes more sense.
yeah, it's been great. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone's input has been very valuable. Like I shared a lot of the things we've already implemented, a lot of them we want to.
Uh-oh.
Once again.
Yeah, this is the good connection and the 21st century.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to follow on Babele.
Yeah, but as it's online, it's the same problem. Yes. Anyhow, thank you all. And yeah, let's hope that we keep in touch and we follow up with Pulse. And don't hesitate to ask for news from his part, because what I know from my own experience is that entrepreneurs are often doing so many stuff that they forget sometimes.
Of course. Thank you so much, Alexandra.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks,
Yes, thank you.
Roxana.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
It was a pleasure.